I remember this, it was like the final meeting of the class of like the 60 kids. And they're like, okay, well, what do you guys gotten out of these last 2 years? And we're all just like in one piece, just like so happy it's almost over. It's May. Yeah. The flowers are out, birds are chirping. Everyone's like raising their hand and saying some long-winded, boring-ass monologue about how they're so grateful about whatever and whatnot. And I didn't say anything. And then one of our teachers goes, well, you know that 90% of you in 10 years won't be actors anymore, right? And everyone started laughing. And they're like, some of you are going to end up being great lawyers, accountants. And everyone just kept laughing and laughing and laughing. And I think I was like rocking a little bit. I was like really like into like the darkness of this conversation. I don't know why. And they were right, because there's like, I mean, I guess I'm acting. I'm an actor, so I'm making a living still acting as best I can.
And you're on Back to One, baby.
And I'm back to one. I'm back to one.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Danny Deferrari is an actor. He sat down with me in Midtown Manhattan to talk about the work.
Is there a typical way that you like to begin your preparation process for a new role?
It's super basic. I get the script and I look for behavior. Just like picks up a glass of water, takes a sip, laughs, you know. And a lot of times writers put in these action lines to help themselves sort of like guide themselves through the script and everything. And also maybe if they're trying to sell a script, they want to like sort of break up a moment, and sometimes a laugh is a beat and sometimes I can ignore it. But I'm all about behavior. I start from like the basement, and I'm just like, okay, so this person's literally, they're walking into a room. And what's that like to walk into a room, and what's the context of walking into the room? Are they people who you already know and you're like totally chill and comfortable with? Or is it a Shiva that you don't really want to be at maybe? So things like that. I really believe in behavior, and I learned it from an acting teacher, this guy Bob Krakauer.
Yes.
He's like the love of my life. I remember I didn't know how to act on film at all. I did theater, and I was just like, I want to make money, and I want to do this. I want to be Gary Oldman. So how do I do this? You know, and he just taught everybody. He was just like behavior. We see things, movies are just like a bunch of pictures cut together. So you need to make each picture as clear as possible. And so that's where I start. And then after I do Bob, then Josh Peiss, because I started taking classes with him, Committed Impulse.
The great Josh Peiss.
Good old Josh.
Listeners, go back to episode, I don't know the number. Sorry, go ahead.
Of which Law and Order?
No, of this podcast.
Oh, sorry.
Of which Law and Order? That's amazing.
I mean, we're all New York. Which episode were we on?
Everyone, that would be a great shirt. You give actors their episode of Law and Order.
That's perfect.
And they're walking around the city.
And then which Law and Order on the back of the shirt. SVU.
There should be a Law and Order bingo.
Law and Order bingo. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
No.
Josh Peiss. This is your other guy. So yours. But wait. Let me just ask you this though. You're talking about like Bob Krakauer is somehow first.
He's first because
of the behavioral
I
thing.
need the foundation. For me, that's the foundation of the house I'm building. I need that because I need to know where I am. I need to know, like, I'll learn a lot about the character just by the behavior within the context. And also I learn a lot about the behavior of the other characters too. So I write down what other characters are, what energy is coming at this person. Mm-hmm. And then once I have that down, I just like write it down. It's very clean. I cross a lot of stuff out of scripts because I get easily distracted.
That's a good idea.
So I just like, and sometimes I type it out. And so it's just cleaner because I memorize when things are clear. Even like my desk, I have to move everything because I'll just, it's like, it's bad enough. I'll just go to Street Easy for no reason sometimes. And I just like, I have to like, so So I do Bob, and then once I have that behavior down, then I start to do Josh's sort of idea of committed impulse and
Yes.
getting into my body. And Josh really, he's also a great friend, and he really helped me not quit acting because I was so in my head.
Wow.
It was like my brain was so tight with thought
Yes.
that I looked angry all the time.
Yes.
And I remember Josh in one of the classes, he talked to me and he was just like, you have to in class, you get up and I didn't listen to that yet, but maybe he described to you like he does this thing called sort of like a stream of consciousness where you get up there and you just tell people what you're feeling. And the great thing is that he helped me differentiate between what I was feeling and what I was thinking. And I wasn't feeling anything. And so now, like right now, I'm feeling my feet.
Pause, because this is I'm relating to this.
Great.
That must have been huge because you're trying to do work that's all about feelings. And you're operating with the other tool, with a tool that doesn't work, right? For that. Am I using the right words here? You know?
Yeah, you're using it.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, so it helped me understand that I was living in, I was just lying to myself. And it wasn't like I'm lying to myself. It was more like everything my brain is telling me is just absolute garbage. It's all based on assumption, fear, anger. And so I learned a lot with Josh, and also my therapist is a somatic therapist. So they're based on the body and they're a trauma therapist. So trauma is crazy because of how it stays in your body. Right. It's real. It's a neurological issue.
Yeah.
That we all have. Trauma is like a normal thing. Like kids, they fall down and they start crying because it is traumatic on some level. And so I had a lot of family stuff as well that was really stuck in like my brainstem, so to speak. And with my therapist and with Josh's work and then with Bob, I kind of created this sort of like holy trinity of artistic safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I didn't know what I was going to do. And it was like, I remember I did a play at Williamstown. Terry Kinney directed. And I was in awe of him because he's also an actor and also he's directing and he creates his own work. And it's like, it was funny. I first met him and I was totally relaxed. And I just started getting more and more tight throughout the process of the show.
Isn't that interesting?
And I was like, this isn't how this usually happens. Why am I getting more stressed out? Everyone was lovely.
Yeah.
Terry was happy with my work.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
We were getting along. Everything was great. You know, he's a friend.
Yeah.
And then I realized that after the show had wrapped and I got to New York, I was like, I don't know if I can do this any longer. This isn't fun anymore. This is like, I'm not having fun. Like I am so upset right now. And I remember looking at Josh's website like 10 times in one day. I was like, I don't want to pay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay. I know how to act.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
And then I signed up finally. And that's where I got up in front of class. And I did sort of like, I feel this, I feel that. I want to be Brando.
Yeah.
But I look more like Seth Rogen, you know? Yeah. And he goes like, are you mad at us right now?
Ooh.
And I was like, why would I be mad at you? But I was like, he's like, oh, just giving you some information.
That was a good Josh Pice impersonation.
You know, because I liked everybody. I love him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, the people who I love think I'm mad at them. I got to figure this shit out. I'm not going to last. So I did a lot of work, like internal work. And I realized there were some issues that I needed to figure out. And then like, can I talk about Madoff?
Yes.
It was like the perfect job for me because my dad, it's no secret, my dad came out of the closet when I was 21, 22, and he was in his 60s. And I knew what it felt like to learn. I knew what it felt like to have a 180 with my family.
Right.
Because I wouldn't necessarily say that my father was lying to me, because he loved me and he put me in such a good position to succeed in my life. He really was an amazing dude. Man, like I have my sense of humor because of him, you know. And I realized when I was looking at Andrew Madoff at the role, I was just like, and I was watching interviews before the audition, and Andrew was just like wide open and not hiding anything. And I saw myself in him because I was never worried about telling people about my dad coming out, or I've always been very open about my family stuff. I breathe better that way. And then reading more and more about Bernie Madoff himself, he loved his family, you know, but he was a sociopath, and he was infected by greed, you know, he was a traitor to the Jewish community. He stole from Holocaust survivors. Not my father, but the reveal of your father or your parent or someone who you're very close to having a completely secret life, a subterranean thing that you have no idea about, was so attractive to me. I was just like, oh yeah, I can sink my teeth into this.
And that's one of those things where it seems like it doesn't happen often, where you know that you're not only right for the role, but that it's that you can do the right work in it because of yourself, what's going on inside you. Like sometimes I'm sure you think that way and you're not right for a role, or you're right for a role and and you have no way of understanding how to make that great.
It's crazy because my sister, I was talking to her in this snowy, awful winter. I was like just going on long ass walks, even in the winter, in their snow. I was just like, I don't care how cold I am. I need to get the fuck out of the house, you know. And I have these 2-3 hour conversations with people, and I called my sister, and she was like, you know, all the Shiva Baby stuff was coming out, and she said, you know, Danny, it's amazing. Whenever you end up getting a really cool role, there's something really intense happening in your life. And I never actually thought about that. And I was also honored that she noticed that, you know, and moved and touched, and seeing how she was paying attention to me. And you know, but right before Shiva Baby, I think my father passed away about 2.5-3 months before we started filming Shiva Baby.
Oh, wow.
And it's insane because, you know, my parents are from Argentina, and I had to go down to Argentina for about a month and try to settle everything. And I wasn't able to settle everything. I wasn't even able to bury my dad because of the laws there. He was found dead, and the police came before the ambulance. So if the police see a dead body for some reason, they consider it they say muerte dudoso, which is a doubtful death. So it's technically a criminal investigation. So the case is open for 3 years. And my father wanted to be cremated. And I still haven't been able to cremate him.
Oh, God.
So it's like, but the story's not, so there's still another chapter to go with that story. And then I came home, I was just a shell of myself. It was also a beautiful trip. I got to spend time with family I hadn't really spent time with for a while, and also as a real, as an adult, because I'm the youngest of 3 and I was always the youngest one in the family. And when I got back to New York a couple weeks later, this offer comes in, and it's for Shiva Baby.
Wow.
I'd never been offered a role.
Just an offer.
It was incredible. I was like, oh my God, thank you. You know, it was such a mess. And I was like, oh, fuck, how am I going to do this? And then, you know, but I meditate every morning, and I get into my body and all the things that I've talked about in terms of the somatic approach and,
Yeah.
and the very practical crack hour approach. I started filming, and I met Rachel and Emma the day before we started.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was quick, and I was actually able to sit Shiva for my dad doing this.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I didn't tell anybody that my father had passed so recently. I was just on set, and I was going through some emotions and feelings, and we were in a house, so all of us had our own little bedroom. So it was really nice too, because it was very interesting, because the bedroom that I was in was like the son's room. You know, this like baseball stuff, and I think he had a baseball signed by like Derek Jeter. I'm a Yankee fan, and it was almost like I was like in this odd, I wouldn't call it a regression. It was like an odd like rediscovery. It was like a bizarre like adolescent renaissance. So I could go to my room, you know, like as a kid, I had my own room. I was the only boy, I had my own room, you know, and I could go and like just like play with stuff on the floor, and like I was like going through all his books, and like, and they're like, okay, Danny, we're ready for you. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you know, and then I was like, okay, Danny, come back.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not that child anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
But we have the scene where they recite the Mourner's Kaddish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when it hit me that I was like, okay, well,
It's amazing.
wow.
Wow.
I love you, and I'm so grateful to be here, you know, and it was interesting because when my sister said, there's always so much going on for you. That's what's going on with Max in the movie as well.
Yeah.
There's a thing.
And that makes me have to ask, what's happening in your life is so raw and so heavy and large at that moment. Mm-hmm. And you have to play this role, and things are a little different for this guy.
Yeah.
But you clearly were able to use what's going on in your life for this guy. And what is that process like? Is the playing with the Derek Jeter baseball part of that? Like,
I never took it out of the case.
Cleansing you? I don't know. I mean, it just seems like something that because you're using yourself so much as an actor. Uh-huh. Like if something's going on in your life, somebody that doesn't do this work might say, oh, well, that's going to hinder your work because you're going, you know, but an actor would say, no, nothing hinders the work. It's all useful. But how were you able to process that and pop it back out in a way?
Well, I think as I've gotten into my later 30s, I've realized like I've just matured a little more, I think. And like I'm able to like not be that racehorse, you know, that amped up young like actor, like let's do this. So sometimes I've learned to really just sit with whatever it is and not act out on it. And there's a word that I've been thinking about a lot, which is duality. And I think that Max, he has two separate lives. And I think that we all have a private and a public persona. And I think that Max's marriage is actually part of his public persona. And his private life are these rendezvous that he has with Danielle. And he really likes them. It's not about the sex. It's like, the sex is great because she's a pretty young thing for him, but it's also about connecting with someone who actually interests him.
Yeah.
And looking forward to something. And so I know what all those things feel like, and you know, and then all of a sudden, it was weird. I'd be there, and then I started thinking about my dad, and I'd be like, well, he had two different lives. He had two different stressors, right, where he had a family and a marriage, but he also had this part of himself that he never was able to unlock.
Yeah.
And when he did, it was a little too late for him. He had a hard time. He had a hard time dealing with being gay, like what it meant, I think. Like what was his persona? Like, how do you be whatever? There's no way, you know, just be yourself. But I think he didn't know how to be himself. And I think that we all have that. That's a part of ourselves. And every character, when I'm preparing, I want to know, like, not just about backstory, but I want to know, like, I don't know, like, I just like the idea of, like, I would love to, like, be able to look at them, wake up in the morning, you know, and just kind of like watch them hang out. And I want to see them lie. What lies do they tell? We all tell lies, whether they're big or small.
Are they good at lying?
Do we withhold? Well, how do we lie? Do they withhold information? Because that's another form of lying, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, Max is it's not that he's two-faced, he just has, it's like this mask. And, you know, my father had the mask. And then I realized, like, when do I have a mask? And then all of a sudden I started realizing that we all have this, and it started making me really curious about everyone I know. And when I start working with a person, I'm so excited to work again, because I want to, like, observe more and more curious about, like, I don't know, I'm just curious about the moodiness of people. I dig it now. I used to not like it. I used to be like, why aren't they talking to me? And now I'm like, well, maybe they're fucking dealing with some trauma, bro, that you don't fucking know about, because you woke up with your own fucking trauma. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So instead of getting taking it personal, you actually find interest in it.
I empathize.
Yeah.
I really empathize. I empathize with when people are having a hard time. I think it's like, now I finally know who this person is.
Yeah.
You know, it's great. Oh, great. You're mad at me? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You have no reason to be mad at me, but let's chill with it, you know? And it's taken a long time to have the courage to, like, not be scared of what other people think.
Yeah.
Because it's about them. It really is about them.
Let's go back to before Crack Hour, before Pice. You were kind of formed, I'm imagining, at NYU and Williamstown.
Williamstown and the Atlantic Theater Company.
And the Atlantic Theater.
I studied at the Atlantic.
Yes.
That was my studio, and I also studied at RADA for a semester.
Oh, that's right. Okay, wait. So, which one was first?
The Atlantic. Those were my first 2 years at NYU.
Okay. Just talk about these places and your growth through them.
Sure.
For us.
Sure. I mean, you know, in high school I started acting, and I really found sort of a niche, and I also found, like, a way to become a better student in general, because I was a really bad student. I really had really low, my attention span was super duper low. I think I was probably depressed a lot of my childhood, and I was around, my father was also a very, very intense depressive, so he had a very low energy, like, you know, not as a blame, but it's just like that was the vibe. And so I think I kind of mirrored that sometimes, and I got out of that, and I went to high school, and I started, like, acting in plays, and I played Mr. Mushnik in Little Shop of Horrors. That was my first role, and then, like, all these girls started telling me I was good, and I was like, oh, cool. Then I made friends with all the theater nerds, but I was also kind of sporty, and then, like, finally it was, like, my senior year, and I was applying to colleges, and I did this play based on a BBC radio show. It was a BBC show called The Singing Detective.
Yes.
Michael Gambon.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And then Robert Downey Jr. did a movie.
That's right. Yeah. I never saw that.
It's interesting. It's worth seeing. And it was the biology teacher was, like, the big serious theater director in high school, and he would always offer me roles in his plays. His name was Brian Conn. He always talked like this. He was a very strange English guy. Really, always wore black. And so I did the play, and someone came up to me after the play, and they're like, "What do you want to do with your life?" I don't know who it was, some dude, and I was just like, "I want to make a living as an actor." And I was, like, dead serious, and he's like, "You're going to do it." I was like, "Okay." And then I got in NYU,
This guy goes away.
Yeah.
You never see him again.
He's my this like weird archangel of positivity, and I got an NYU and I started studying at the Atlantic, and like
So wait, are they connected? NYU doesn't have like a program at the Atlantic.
It does. So what happened was I was applying to colleges, like, and I was between. I got also into BU, but I really wanted to be in New York. I grew up half my life right outside of the city in Mount Vernon, and we had moved to the city, and I was like, I want to be here. I want to do this. I want to get gritty. I want to hustle, and I knew that from a very early age that it was for me. And so you get an NYU, and they have like a studio system, so you can choose what kind of style of acting training you want to study. You can Strasberg, you can Stella Adler, you can Meisner, you can do the experimental theater wing, which is all like a lot of Grotowski type stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was the Atlantic, and I remember someone said to me, "You should read the Practical Handbook for the Actor." I think that's what it's called, the David Mamet.
Yeah.
And I read it in like 2 hours. It's a quick read, but I like the information just stayed in me. And he was just like, don't go to acting school. Just start putting up your plays.
Yeah.
Fuck the system. Make the system type deal. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. I'm going to make the system. I was like 18. And so I auditioned for NYU, and the guy was like, well, which studio would you like to be in? And I was like, Atlantic. And he was like, I see you at Atlantic. I was like, that's right. That's right. I'm going to be at Atlantic. And I'm going to have a career like Bill Macy and all these incredible people. And so we went to the Atlantic, and it was a rude awakening. They kick your ass from day one.
They're in what way?
They're very realistic, and they're like, you need to create your own opportunities. No one's going to give you anything. And it really resonated with me. And the first year I was miserable, and because I was being worked so hard, and also like there were more women in the program, so the guys had to double up on scenes. So I was doing like so many scenes. I was like, I couldn't memorize anything. This is insane. I don't know how I got through all the scene work. And then I remember I finally realized that Atlantic was a good place for me, because my script analysis teacher, Karen Kohlhaas, she said, I did To Be or Not to Be, and I mispronounced a word. And I did it, and she goes, okay, you didn't do your work. And I like flipped out on her. You don't fucking know what the fuck. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. You know, because I was so tired and like studying Hamlet. I had to do like a whole through line of his character. And then she was just smiling and nodding. And then I started crying. And I was like, oh God. And then I learned in that moment that I really have to do my homework, and I have to figure out a way to be calm when I'm doing my homework. That's also I think that's why Crack Hour works for me so much, is because it's just like no pressure. The stakes are so low. I'm just like writing little notes down, and then like having a sip of tea, and you know, gently moving into the work. So the Atlantic and then the second year was great. We worked on Clifford Odets. We did scenes from film noir movies, which I learned a lot about stillness. And that actually introduced me to the Cohen Brothers really well, because of was it Miller's Crossing?
Yes.
So we did scenes from Miller's Crossing, and so the Atlantic was great. It was an amazing experience, and they told us. I remember this. It was like the final meeting of the class of like the 60 kids, and they're like, okay, well, what do you guys gotten out of these last 2 years? And we're all just like in one piece, just like so happy it's almost over. It's May.
Yeah.
The flowers are out, birds are chirping. And we're all just like, everyone's like raising their hand and saying some long-winded, boring-ass monologue about how they're so grateful about whatever and whatnot. And I didn't say anything. And then one of our teachers goes, well, you know that 90% of you in 10 years won't be actors anymore, right? And everyone started laughing. And I was like really into the pain. Like, I guess it was like, that's when I realized that like, Atlantic had done its job and made me a complete fucking masochist. And I was like, yeah, 10 years, 90% of us will not be doing this. And they're like, some of you are going to end up being great lawyers, accountants. And everyone just kept laughing and laughing and laughing. And I think I was like rocking a little bit. I was like really like into like the darkness of this conversation. I don't know why. And they were right, because there's like, I mean, I guess I'm acting. I'm an actor, so I'm making a living still acting as best I can.
And you're on Back to One, baby.
And I'm back to one.
That is, all right. So
that was the Atlantic at NYU, those first 2 years.
And then you get out, you have your sights set on the camera or the stage, and which one is it? I mean, or is it like whatever's going to come?
I want nothing to do with musical theater. I think musical theater is people are going to hate me for saying this. I just think I'm always being lied to when I watch musical theater. It's like, why are you fucking singing? Just fucking talk to me. Because you're also kind of talk singing, and I'm like, I just get pulled out. It's really like my own taste. I have plenty of friends who are in musical theater, and sometimes I'll go to musical, I'm like, whoa. Like, the last musical I saw, I had some friends in Waitress. I loved it.
That's the last musical I saw.
Really?
Yes.
I loved it. I had a great time.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. The actors were incredible.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit. I was like, I miss theater. Ironically, I went to a musical and it made me want to do theater again.
Yeah.
But when I got, I did RADA. What's crazy is I did the Atlantic, and then I did a summer at Williamstown as an apprentice.
Aha.
And I met some amazing people there, and it was very it felt like guerrilla theater, because I was up till 5 a.m. every day. Like I was in 3 plays at the same time.
So that's what an apprentice does. You're in plays, but why is it called an apprentice?
You're apprentice because you're essentially you're paying to assist the festival.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like
see.
you're helping hang lights. You're on crews. That's how the festival survives. But a lot of really jazzed up kids who want to be we just want to be there.
That's cool, yeah.
And it was so exciting. And
But you were doing non-acting stuff. That's what you mean.
I made friends with this guy in the workshop, and I was like, dude, just send me to the set shop. I just want to do wood. I want to shave wood. I want to paint. I want to get dirty.
Yeah.
I want to drink a lot of coffee. I want to blast Metallica and Mozart and just do it,
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. So I would go to the set shop and just cut wood, paint, and then at night I would go and rehearse these little plays, and I even got to direct some scenes from "'Tis Pity She's a Whore," and I realized that I really like directing as well, and it was a really all-encompassing, incredible summer, one of the most memorable summers of my life. And then I did RADA right after that. And
how did you get there?
I auditioned. It was through NYU. And so you audition for the Brits. They come down to New York.
Wow.
And they judge you.
Wow.
Intensely.
Yeah.
Because you're a Yank.
Yeah.
And they're a Brit.
Right.
And you're doing Shakespeare.
Right.
I got in.
Wow.
And I actually had a really hard time out there. I thought I was going to have a blast. And one of my buddies still makes fun of me because he was always looking at me. I look like I just wanted to go home the whole time, But I'm really I love New York so much.
Yeah.
And London is just so different. And it was, I think by the end of it, I was getting comfortable in London. It just felt weird that I was just in London, but I was always with Americans. And I just it didn't feel like a genuine experience for some reason.
Yeah.
Other people had an amazing time. So I can't speak badly. I just know that for some reason I just felt burnt out there for some reason. I don't know why.
And how long was that?
A semester. So from August till December. And then I got back to NYU and I had a double major in history that I wanted to finish. So then I just started doing academics. And but I was still doing plays at night. And that was when I was at my happiest in school. I got to live a normal life.
Yeah.
Maybe
you needed that kind of structure.
I needed enrichment or something because I love history, and I really love reading history, and I like it much more than fiction. And it was also oddly a way to connect with my dad, I think, because he had a brain like an encyclopedia. And so I was able to talk to him about like, you know, the socialist revolution, the Red Guard versus the White Guard, and World War II, and like all these specific weird, bizarre battles that no one knows about, all the failures from the Allies that no one knows about. So that was really great. And then I like ended up having a really lovely girlfriend at the time, and I like had a really beautifully structured
Life is good, yeah.
Yeah.
School ends then, and then what? Like, I mean,
School ends and
was
I had
that terrible?
No, I had a theater company actually.
Huh.
We started a theater company senior year. Me and a bunch of friends, we got inspired by a class we took in London, because we also did like sort of academics there, and they're like, create a production of a Shakespeare play. So we created a sort of a diorama of like Julius Caesar, and this was we're such college kids. We're like, well, the war in Iraq is happening, and we're doing Julius Caesar, so we're gonna set Julius Caesar in Iraq. And so
Brilliant.
It's like it's just the coolest thing ever. You know, it's topical. It's straight from the headlines, but it's Caesar. And we ended up taking that project and we brought it back our senior year. And so we put that production on of Julius Caesar. We did a theater for the new city. And we started this theater company. I was a producer, and I was like the main person looking to book space.
Yeah.
I loved it. Maybe that's why I look at Street Easy all the time for no reason. I just like I love going to new spaces. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
Meeting new characters, particularly the characters at Theater for the New City. Have you spent any time there?
I've seen a couple things there.
Do you know, there's a woman, I think it's Crystal Field. It's interesting because they also have like a socialist bookstore.
Yeah.
Right in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's right.
It was crazy. I was like, what am I? This is cool. I don't know what any of this is. This is great. We did that play, and then we actually, one of the most important projects I've ever worked on was we produced this Kurt Vonnegut play, the only one he wrote, called Happy Birthday, Wanda June. And he was alive at the time, and we actually worked with him.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was. I remember I was interning at Alexa Fogel Casting, and I was also making phone calls to Kurt Vonnegut's agent.
Wow.
And I was sending faxes. I would call, leave a message, then send a fax. Like I was a very insistent young man, and eventually his agent brought it to him, and he decided he wanted to work with us because there were like 3 other groups who wanted to work with him. He's like, I want to work with those college kids. I want to see what they do.
Wow.
So he got in touch with us, and he's like, meet me at my house. So we met him on the east side, and he took us out for lunches.
That's really special, man. Holy shit.
He came. I remember the first time we met him. He would always wear like those like sort of white boat shoes, those like sailor shoes. And I just remember those. And you know, he had his hacking smoker cough, and he had an overcoat. It was like 80 degrees, and he comes out and he looks at all of us. It's just like 4 dudes, just like staring, not knowing what to say. And he's at the top of the steps of the brownstone. And he goes, "Where are all the girls?" And I was like, "I'm very sensitive." And I don't even know if he heard me. He's like, "Let's go, let's eat. Shut up." And we had where he was like, he's like, steak and fries. So we went to a place, got steak free, and he just talked to us. He just started talking. He talked about he gave us a rewrite that he wanted us to do. Rachel Chavkin directed it. She's a Broadway director now, NYU person, and it was really cool.
Did that send you down the road of wanting to do that kind of production work? Was that fulfilling? Was that giving you...
It
was. And what were
was.
you doing at that time in your acting career?
Well, that's the thing, is we kept doing... We had this theater company, and then I went back to Williamstown again for their other tier of acting where you audition, and for their non-equity company. It's not easy to get into, and I was really, really proud to do it. And I worked with some incredible people that summer. Roger Rees chose us, all the actors. It was a very special summer with him. And that summer in 2005, I realized when I was working in that sort of ensemble of actors, I was like, I don't know if I can keep producing, because it was like Wanda June was great and I was acting in it as well, but I was like not sleeping, not in, there were certain aspects that I was not enjoying. Theater companies, there's always drama. Like one person's not really people aren't pulling their weight, and then you have to almost act like a parent, you know what I mean? And then you're like, I don't even want to have this conversation because I'm happy that they're having a good time. So I realized that I just wanted to focus on acting. We created this play with Anne Washburn, created a play called I Have Loved Strangers. And it was about this guy, Jeremiah, who he just comes down from the mountaintop from out of nowhere, kind of like a Jesus figure. And he's just like, world's ending, act accordingly, and like, I got to play this prophet who didn't want to be a prophet. And so I guess like, as I'm talking to you, I'm realizing that like, there's always two things happening at the same time with these characters. And so I took a break from the theater company. It was really hard to do that because we're all really close friends. It's still one of my best friends. Our friendship survived. And I decided I really needed to focus on making a living as an actor and really go for it. I would say I struggled a bit. I was doing a lot of downtown theater, like under St. Mark's, like trying real hard. Like agents were like, hey, you should be a stand-up comic. Because like I was like, I guess I was funny. Maybe, I don't know. It was like the most insulting thing. I remember the pay-to-plays to go like meet an agent. And I remember like, do a monologue for this agency. And I remember I met the same agency at a pay-to-play like 10 times. And every time they wouldn't remember me. And then I stopped doing it once. One of the agents was like, hey, have you ever considered getting into comedy? Because you've got some really great timing. I was doing Glengarry Glen Ross. I'm like, what was probably not the best choice. I was like, I'm Shelley Levine. It was just so ridiculous. Of course they're going to tell me.
So how do you get over that? How do you keep going?
I don't like to lose, but I'm actually, but I'm also not I'm not competitive with other people. I feel very, 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 very fucking lucky that I don't get crazy about other actors. Because I know I'm me, I'm different, like, and I can't control whatever the director or the casting director is going to want, and I get like kind of like envious. I'm like, oh fuck, I wish I was playing that part. That sucks. But I'm always like, well, how is this my fault? Why am I not there? This is on me. And it's healthy, but it's also it's a slippery slope when it comes to that for me. But I'm writing a lot, and I have a writers group, and we are always just like, when we want to like ask people, like, how do you ask for a favor? How do you ask for help in the industry? Someone said to me like, well, what's your ask? Like, what are you asking? Because like sometimes people can't help you if they don't know what is, it can be really, when you're like nervous about asking for help, you're like, you think it'd be okay if oh shucks. What was me? And sometimes people are just like, I know personally, if people are like that towards me, I'm like, get the fuck out of my face. I don't have time for your garbage right now.
Just get out with it.
I have enough of my own garbage. I really do. Please just tell me what you want. What do you want? I gotta go. I gotta go traumatize myself somewhere. I'll talk to you later. I learned that whenever I'm very clear, and I'm very clear about what I want and what I need from somebody, I usually get it. Not like, look how amazing I am, but it's just like, usually what I'm asking for, I'm not asking for someone to move heaven and earth. I'm just asking for like, could you put in a good word? Would you be comfortable? You know what I mean? If people say no, I'll go, okay, great, because I know what it's like to not be comfortable, to put in a good word. No problem, but no big deal. So I remember I kept going back to Williamstown. It was the saving grace of my career. And I would
and you enjoyed that. I mean,
Yeah.
that was like because you're doing these like what? So what were you doing? Classics?
we were workshopping new stuff.
Oh.
I was meeting new up and coming directors. It was like, I always called it like New York's country house, like Broadway's country house. Because all the fucking great New Yorkers would leave. And we'd all be in such a good mood because we wouldn't be in the city.
Yeah.
We would just be like we'd be in Williamstown, Massachusetts. We'd be able to like do our thing. We'd be able to just party our asses off. We'd be able to be serious. We would be able to play hard and work hard.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, you'd be at the bar and like Sam Rockwell would just show up out of nowhere and just hang out and shoot the shit. And it brings everything down to earth, you know? Where you'd see like, I think like De Niro walk down Main Street once, you know? Everyone's like, oh, and I was like, oh, cool. He's just chilling.
Yeah.
So the thing about Williamstown was that it was almost like my grad school. I never went to grad school. And Williamstown, it was an amazing networking place, but I never felt the need to network there. I just worked hard and had a good time. And I did a workshop of Peter and the Starcatcher. And I played Captain Hook in it, or Black Stash, they called him. And I had a blast. And I was just playing this British folkish bad man, you know, with a little accent and a little flamboyant. And I remember we finished and I was like, okay, cool. All right, what the fuck is next? Because I'm broke. I don't want to, you know, I was bar backing at Balthazar and I was like, please don't, I can't be there anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose my fucking sanity. And I remember a casting director came up to me. She goes, hey, you're really good. Do you have agents? And I was like, you know what? I don't know what came over me. I was like, you know what? Look, I really appreciate that you really like how good I am or whatever. But like, I need an agent. I need to put food on the table. Can you help me find an agent? And she's like, here's my card. I was like, look, like I'm really gonna bother you. I'm gonna be a real pain in the ass.
She already regrets coming over to you.
She loved it. She was like, oh, you know, like it was probably refreshing because I was just like, I was just being a business person. I was just like,
up front, like just
this is what I want. This is what I need. You know, my work backs up what I want. You know, and I'm not one to like. Honestly, I'm not one to doubt my talent because I've worked, I've trained. It's not about that for me. It's I'll doubt my preparation. Like, I hope I prepared enough. But I know that like if the preparation is there, then the talent meets, and that's it.
Right.
It's not complicated for me. But I emailed her like an hour later. I was like,
But you waited an hour. You waited an hour.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very.
It's very controlled. It was very controlled. I was like, my friend's like, well,
You warned her. I mean, you know, she can't say, you know.
No, I was like, I'm just letting you know. I was like, is that okay? I was like checking the parameters. I emailed her and she's like, okay, well, my assistant is CC'd. And I was like, oh, an assistant. Oh, interesting. Okay, great. This is real now.
Yeah.
I met up with her and she said, okay, well, what agencies do you want to be with? And we sat down, we workshopped who I wanted to be with. And I didn't really know.
Yeah.
And I was honest. I was like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
But if you put me in the right situation, I will succeed. So who should I go to? She's like, well, I know this up and coming agent, you know. And then I had a meeting with the agent and my first meeting was like 3 hours. Just hung out in the office. And then I knew that there was a commercial agent in the same division who I, for some reason, like an asshole, didn't email them back years ago because I was had my head up my ass. And I just strolled into the office and lo and behold, that agent was there. I was like, hey, and she's like, you owe me an email, man. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was an asshole. I really want to work with you. And she's like, just have a seat. And then so I like kind of like, I did everything. It was almost like I gave myself a second chance by just being very direct, by having the ask. You know, so that's what I would tell my younger former self. Like, but you don't know what you want when you're young.
Yeah.
Or you don't know how to formulate. You're just feeling
Right.
a lot of shit. And so with them, I started working with them, and then there was another Williamstown summer, and a manager saw me, and so I went to another agency, the agency that I'm with now, and yeah, I've just like when it comes to the business side, I just keep in touch with people.
That's part of it, huh? Just keeping those
You have
networks going.
You have to remind people that you still exist.
Yeah.
Like, because we're all living our lives.
Right.
You know, like there's something about everyone having their own shit going on,
Yeah.
and needing to also respect that, and not, this goes back to maybe what the Atlantic says, is that no one's going to give you anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also something my mom, I remember, she was always just like, you want something? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you have to ask me. My mom was very intense about like having me and my sisters communicate what we wanted from her. Right. You know, my mom is a fighter. She has a very intense fighting spirit, and you know, she really like trained me, like, if you don't ask for what you want, you're never gonna get it. And it's really, I think, served me in the business, on the business side, which is like, there's nothing weird about like asking for help.
Yeah.
There's nothing weird about actually checking in on a person to make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
You're not bothering them. And if you are, that's up to them to decide, you know?
Yeah. So Williamstown kept paying off in terms of getting you in front of these people that were...
Yeah, it was
and you kept going back there, not for that reason, just to do work.
I just wanted to work. I just wanted to work. I just wanted to enjoy myself. I think in the back of my mind, I knew that it was a great resource.
Yeah, yeah.
But I never went there thinking like, oh, this is the place where I'll get my manager. This is the place where I'll meet that person. And no, I wanted to go back because like, it felt like a commune.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone who's gone to Williamstown, who's been there, will agree.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in the water there. There's something in the air that keys people into their craft, their art. It might just be the beautiful, serene, idyllic surroundings,
or just a dedication to that stuff. I mean,
yeah, well, because you get the city out of the way.
Yeah,
you're
getting
you get away from your family. You get away from your other maybe friends that may not be as close to you as you think.
Mm-hmm.
All that. Get away from your restaurant job.
Mm-hmm.
And you just do the work.
I want to talk about two performances of yours that I know you from, but not really, because one of them I had to look back. I'm like, he was in that, and I looked back, and that's very interesting. I want to talk about that one second. But the one that came before that, it had to be you, because I only watched it. I only watched it because I was interviewing Milioti,
Kristen,
and and I mean, I didn't know about that movie. That movie came and went, and I didn't know anything about it. So I only saw it when I was preparing for her. And you're particularly, I was on the floor when you're reading your letter at the end. And just that accent. So I didn't even know that was you, because sometimes meaning I didn't know you at the time. And when I was about to talk to you, it's not like I thought, oh, that's that guy from that movie, because you had the accent, which was perfect, I think. Do you enjoy that kind of, I mean, this is not just comedy, which you're good at, and I could see why people are trying to push you toward comedy, but not stand-up comedy. It was just imbeciles. But being able to in a movie like exorcise that kind of comedic side to you must have been nice at that time.
Yeah, I think that I had such a good time, and Kristen it was so easy working with her. We had so much fun. She has so many tools as a performer. I remember being so impressed with her on set. And so I was, I showed up and everyone's like, "You're doing this movie with Kristen?" And I was just like, "Yeah," but at the time I think she was just starting a TV show, like to be a lead on a network show. And I knew her from the New York circles and stuff. And I think I actually remember seeing her at a Law and Order audition and years back. And she's always had a very familiar face to me.
Yeah.
And I remember I showed up on set and it was her and Dan Soder, and they were having lunch, and I kind of was sitting in the corner. It was a low budget film, so like there was nowhere to go. It's just like, here's the green room, and it's like the middle of the set, and like I'm just like intimidated and like nervous, and I was also really broke, and I was just like my life was happening,
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hi, Danny," and I was like, "Hi," and she's like, "Do you wanna come join us? Come have lunch with us?" And like that's all I needed.
Yeah.
I was like the new kid at the school, and she just welcomed me, and we laughed a lot. And the scene where I think she has like the short haircut, and I'm like, "It's very sad that you are a lesbian," it's so wrong and so inappropriate, but we just couldn't stop laughing. We couldn't stop laughing, and I had to just be like very sincere. And then all of the scenes were really fun in the bathtub. It was so silly, and like my character Fabrizio, he doesn't lie at all. He does come from a family of barbers. That's why he can trim all of her body hair.
Hey, without any worries of safety issues?
No. The old barbers, the family old barbers. That's nice. So it was really fun to work with Sasha Gordon. She's great. I really enjoyed working with her, and it's a really sweet film.
Yeah.
People should really should check it out, because sometimes I get text message from friends who are like, "Dude, you just popped up in this movie. It's so good. What?" And I'm like,
"Yep,
it's great."
The other movie that I have is clear in my mind. So when I looked at your credits and I saw that you were in that, I was like, that has to be wrong. He's not in that. I would have remembered. I would know you. I know the movie, so I would have known. Seeing you now, preparing for you, I'm like, he's not in that. And I had to scroll back and look, and it's Private Life. It's a very small role, but here is the interesting thing. So I have an actor that's coming on the show. He talks about this idea of having to know what service your part is playing dramaturgically, and how you can, if you're not thinking about this, if you're just thinking about the psychological thing of the character and not thinking about the part that you are playing, and I mean that with a small p, not a capital P, and the role small r, you can get into trouble. And also it made me think, when I watched that scene, I remembered everything your character said to Kaylee's character. Yeah. So you succeeded, because I remember, oh my God, but you have no close-up, you're just going up the stairs. She knew what she wanted out of this character, out of this role. If you had gone to the audition and were made too much of a presence, or it's almost like you would have been overperforming it, and she wouldn't have cast you. You landed it correctly because you're performing, the character's performing an expository purpose.
Absolutely.
This is such an interesting thing that we don't get to talk about enough on this show. The idea that I forgot you actually means it's successful.
Like a fine wine. You don't even notice it with your dinner. Like, I want wine that I don't notice. Yeah.
But sometimes actors have to realize they are performing a thing for a certain purpose. And it's not necessarily, you don't have to think about the backstory of this dude.
You don't have to. I mean, maybe you do, but if you do that too much, if you kind of build up this thing, you can actually be performing yourself right out of the role.
Absolutely, and that has to do with. I mean, that's where like my preparation comes into play, where it's just like it's literally the guy's literally in the story. He's a facilitator.
Yes.
He's just
literally the facility. Yes.
He's welcoming her.
Yeah.
To the commune, so to speak, to the artist residency, and he's just like, "Hey, come on in. Yeah, this is cool. I run the place and I love it here, and you know, now I'm gonna walk up." I remember the audition distinctly. I remember seeing like, okay, well, if I'm walking upstairs and there's a painting, so I'm gonna probably just show the painting and like kind of stay. When we're in the scene, it's a very big space. So I realized that I needed to have sort of a panoramic sense of everything, because if I'm showing people around, I need to know the place really well. I need to be comfortable there. So I remember when we got to set, it was like, I had to get like a 4 a.m. van right outside the Midtown Tunnel, drive out to Long Island, you know, and then get like the truck coffee, and you have your little like trailer, but it's freezing. And there was this amazing, beautiful like fog. I remember that morning. And I went up to one of the, either a PA or it might have been the second AD, and I was like, "Hey, do you guys mind if I just go hang in the building? If I let, because they always want to know where you are. And I'm really bad at staying still on set. Like I'm really bad at staying in my trailer. They always want to know where I am. You know, I go to the bathroom like every 15 minutes, the adrenaline, I'm just like a child on set. And they was like, "Where's Danny? He's probably in the bathroom." And so then they're like, "Yeah, sure. You know how to get there?" I was like, "No, I'll walk." And it was just like a beautiful experience, because I got to like walk through this fog, getting to the building. And I got in and I just got to hang out and watch the crew set up. And I got to just sit in the space, because if this guy's been there,
yes,
I've got to be there. I can't just show up blind like
That's
that.
right.
So I hung out for 3 hours before, and I was just like, all right, cool. And I walked up the steps. I felt how the steps felt. And I was also really proud of being in that project. It's a special movie.
Yes, it is.
Right when they brought everyone, Catherine Hahn and Paul Giamatti, they were like so chill, they're so goofing off, and it felt like I was welcoming them in, because I'd already been there longer than they had. So maybe
cool.
I don't think I did it on purpose, but I think the dynamic got set up that way.
That's interesting.
So I had a very different energy
Yeah.
than, you know, they did, because they're like, they show up and Catherine's like, "What is this place? Whoa!" You know, like everyone's like new to the space, you know, and so I think I stayed there, and I really reminded myself to like, if I've been there a long time, to really like, you know, be in my feet there.
Yeah.
Really be in your feet. And then Tamara, she came up to me, said hello, and she was just like, "I saw your tape and I knew it was you right away." And I was just like, "Oh, thanks." And then, you know, we ran through it, and she's like, "You can make stuff up here," because, you know, she like was self-deprecating, and she's like, what you're gonna make up is probably way better than what I wrote. And she was very, whether it's an act to make me feel better, she was very sweet. And I, you know, so I was like, can I add 1 or 2 words to kind of really frame, because there is an argument no matter what, which is like, I remember the character's like, "That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here."
Yeah.
You know, like to make it clear, because the movie's leading up to her character getting there.
Yes.
So things just have to be crystal clear.
Yes.
I appreciate you
Danny,
remembering that. It's really sweet, because I not just sweet, but just like really, it's really gratifying as an actor when you have those small roles, to hope that, you know, you want people to notice you.
Yes. Yes. But it's more important to not know you're acting. It's more important to get through it years later, look back and like, "Oh yeah, that was an actor there. I thought that was that guy."
Oh, wow.
I'm being serious.
Thanks, dude. Wow, thank you.
That's why I
great.
didn't remember you.
I mean, all right. Well, now I can retire.
That is your retirement role.
I'm retiring.
That is, we will.
I'm going to become a real estate agent now.
But
No, I
it's
won't.
so interesting to think about these kind of roles and to think, and you know what, bro, I'm picturing faces right now of people that did not succeed in this because I was thrown out. Mm-hmm. And then, I probably turned that show off soon after that because if there was one more thing that happened and I'm like, I don't know, I don't trust the show.
Right.
Like
right.
that's what happens.
Right. Well, I've learned that I can't control what the audience member's experience is going to be. And what you're doing is you're describing what your experience was watching that work. And I realize, I think the reason that a lot of actors probably push or reach in their performances is because they want the audience to feel something from what they're giving them, yes. But you don't have control over that, yes. nor should you want to. I'm very clear about that. So that's also the type of laziness that I'm starting to really relish as I work a little bit more. I hope I keep working because, I mean, honestly, I don't know when the next job comes. No one knows. So once a job ends, it's like, the one thing that I do take to heart now is to not be a control freak about the experience. And that's fair what you say, because that's yours.
Yeah.
And you're the paying audience member. You're the one giving your time to watch something.
Yes.
And that does mean a lot because we only live once that we know of. And so if someone donates 2 hours of their time to your work, you should be grateful. And I don't know, I can't control, like playing Max, like I was on his side the whole time. I was like, this guy's, like, I was like, I know people like this.
Yeah.
He's having such a hard time. He doesn't feel seen. Like all of these real, sincere things, and I really played him like he was really in a really bad spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone's like, you were such a fucking prick in that movie. And I was just like, wow, oh, okay. And that has to do with Emma's direction. Yeah. And, we would do different types of takes over and over and over. Yeah, it wasn't, Emma's a bit of a...
You're talking about Shiva Baby, just so people...
Emma Seligman, the
okay.
director and writer of Shiva Baby.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I felt like there was a really, sort of charming alchemy going on with her, where she would say, okay, that was great, I love that. Can you now do it like this? And then she would nudge you in a different direction. Mm-hmm. Because what I adore about the way she works is she is open to every take, and she's open to not totally knowing how it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And I connect with that way of art making. Mm-hmm. Because you film the movie and then you make another movie in post.
Right.
And so she had all these options, and so she was able to really, at first I remember she was like, could you do it like this? Can you do it like that? And at first I was like, oh man, she doesn't like what I'm doing. She keeps telling me to do this differently. And then she gave that note to someone else. And I was like, oh, I feel better now. Great. And then I started realizing that she's playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And audience, I'm so grateful for the response from audiences right now. And Planet Earth right now is kind of sitting Shiva.
Yes.
As well.
That's
and
a good point.
I really think that people are connecting to it because it's like, she asks twice, who died? And we've been surrounded by death.
Yes.
And so now we all get to go to the Shiva.
Yeah.
And I think that whether people are conscious of it or not, I think this thing that's going on right now in the world is adding weight, and the film is is right. It's like exactly where it needs to be right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you got, what is it, Godzilla versus King Kong, and I don't know, other things that explode, and nuclear holocausts.
Yes.
It's just like, can we just see a movie about people?
Yes.
Can we look at the human condition a little bit, please?
Basically one room, or one location.
Yeah,
Let's just
and it's nonstop. It's
Yeah.
nonstop, and it flies, and everybody from top to bottom. There is no weak link in that film.
There really isn't.
No,
I mean,
there is not. Everyone, even the guy who's like, is there a window in that bathroom?
Wait, that guy. I mean, like I was like, that it was amazing.
It was an incredible. Everyone's just like, everyone gets it. He's got an upset stomach and he needs to use a can. There better be a window in there, because there's like so many people, and everyone's going to see him come out. See, we're already starting a conversation about a guy who needs to, use the restroom. It's amazing.
But wait, there must have been a moment where you're like, this first-time director is going to do this movie with all these people in one location. I mean, this is a real recipe to make a bad movie. I mean, at least with multiple locations, like you can have a few bad scenes. If it's your first movie, but maybe there'll be a location where it'll feel right. If she didn't have the flow going or something, the movie's done. I mean, the movie doesn't work.
It wasn't just her. She's very good at also entrusting people. She's very good at getting help, I think, in terms of like, everyone was working together. The producers, I also, Lizzie Shapiro, Kieran Altman, and Katie Schiller they're amazing producers, and they know how to do a lot of different things. Sometimes they were doing sound. One of them was script supervising as well, making sure continuity was working. And so everyone was talking. It's like, is this tracking? Is this working?
Yeah.
And they, it took a village, but Emma was steering the whole way. I really have an affinity for her as an artist and as a person. She really, she speaks this sort of emotional language that I can digest. Yeah. There are power dynamics with Rachel Sennett's character about how in one moment she's like a lower status than Max, and then she reacts off of what Max does, so then she goes and deals with her mother. But I did notice that this movie, how also the editing is incredible. Incredible editing in the score.
Yes.
And what I noticed when I watched the movie was that in the scenes where Danielle and Max are looking at each other, he always flinches. If you look back, she holds on. She stares at him, and he eventually just kind of smiles or guffaws or looks down. And there was something I noticed. It was that I've seen the movie 3 times now, and I keep seeing new things. And Max, he's weak.
Yeah.
He's internally weak.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, I wasn't conscious of it, but she, Rachel does an incredible job where she's not backing the fuck down.
Yeah.
She's like, it's all this chaos, but she never quits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Max quits.
Yeah.
He quits even in the micro situations where he's like, and he just laughs or looks down or hides. And she's not hiding.
Right.
And that's very like, it's tough, it's aggressive, it's masculine at the same time, you know?
Yes. You're making me want to see it again. Can you name and describe something that frustrated you about this business that has gone away with time?
I guess I like the fact that you can get stuff done at home.
Yeah.
I've really realized that, like, I could do auditions while I'm FaceTiming with people and Skyping, and I can be in the comfort of my home. And
Do you make it a project? Like, do you think about it all day? Do you work out things? Do you set up like it's a project?
Well, I made one of my closets a booth, a voiceover booth.
Nice, yeah.
That was fun. I got all these like moving blankets, but I didn't have a car, and I went to a Lowe's. It was off of like Flatbush Avenue, and I was like, oh, my bike, I have a basket, it'll be great. And then I like rode home with like I think I just covered myself in the blankets, and I rode my bike home. And then I drilled them in the wall, and
nice.
So I did that, and rearranged my furniture, and it's nice to be in my sweats and in my Adidas slides. Hey, Adidas, sponsor me. I'm a capitalist, and I think that I just think the idea that we don't have to necessarily be somewhere all the time is it's a paradigm shift. Yeah. And I do hope that part of that stays, because I feel like having to show up somewhere was always, it almost felt like you had to keep up with appearances. Where it's like, what is that? There's a meme, it's like, this could have been an email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's okay for us to start to be like, this could be just a Zoom, this could be just a phone call.
Yeah.
It's not as big a deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like an audition is just, or having a meeting with the director.
Yes.
Things like that. That's what I do like. That's kind of gone away, and I think that, I think this is me. I'm a speculator. I think 50% of it will stay.
Yeah. People
need to also get out of the house.
Yeah.
People want to go to the office.
Yeah.
I want to go to the office. I was so stoked to come here in person. Really, it was nice. Like before, I was like, oh, I have a little time. I'm going to go to the diner and have an omelet and sit outside and be refined. While the trash flies into my face. I love 3rd Avenue and 18th Street.
Yeah. And eventually you're going to have to meet with the director. Like that's not going to go away eventually, but it's eventually you're going to have to.
No, I want to
go into a room. But it's like
this hang that we're having. I don't think it wouldn't be as good if we did this via Zoom.
Right. Right.
I agree.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And but like you're saying, there is a version of this though that if I demanded it happen in person, now you'd be like, I don't know if he really needs to. And that is also.
But you have the option.
Yeah.
I think that's what's important, is that now we have the option. We know we don't have to. We have option. We have a lot more options than we think.
Yes.
And there's a laziness to it that I think is healthy. And
yes.
Because maybe it's not laziness, it's actually just a relaxation, a chillness.
Or also a re-evaluation of one's time.
Oh God, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is good.
I think so. And
maybe one good thing to come out of this year.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I only speak for myself. I just know that I'm coming out of this with a little more gratitude and a little more patience with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've all been witnessing all of this together. So we're really all in the same boat.
Yes.
And I want to continue to bring that into my craft, and I think empathy and kindness are so sexy now, and it needs to stay that way. I think posturing is because we can't lie anymore to a degree.
Yeah.
We can't lie anymore, and I think audiences don't want to be lied to. Like you're talking about your experience.
Yes.
Getting upset about being pulled out of your experience.
Yes.
It's because you felt like you were being lied to.
Yes.
And we don't want to be lied to. I'm giving you my time. Don't lie to me.
Yes. Yes.
Give me a good ask.
Yes.
Danny Deferrari, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.